are live.
All right, welcome everyone. We are live with Aubree Saia, who I'm really honored to talk to today. You've been, I think, a stalwart within the Madison yoga community for a very long time. It's in a very, also, I think, someone who has brought a lot of drive and uniqueness to the community. I mean, I remember starting teaching in a day where flow yoga was kind of an odd thing, and all of a sudden it was like everywhere, and I can't help but think that you were definitely a part of that in making that something here. So, really good to talk to you today, Aubree. And we're joined together after kind of a long hiatus and with the pandemic. So, what have you been up to since the pandemic or during the pandemic?
Oh my goddess, so much. Thanks for having me, Alex. It's great to be connected or reconnected with you. And hello to all our viewers out there. I've been doing so much during the pandemic, actually. I've been in a deep rebirth and a deep, like on a personal level, but also with my business. I rebranded from Jewel in the Lotus Yoga to Breath of Life Sacred Living Arts because it kind of encompasses more of what I do, and because it's definitely beyond yoga. Yoga was always the doorway for me into so many other healing practices, empowerment practices. So yeah, I something that I had wanted to do for a very long time. The pandemic just created some space. So I did my TRE certification, tension and trauma releasing exercises, which is something I have found to be very fascinating for many, many years. But every time Dr. Berselli was offering a training, I had an event happening and it just never aligned. So I was really glad to complete that. Um, I've learned a lot of new skills, especially working with sacred technology. Um, and I've been expanding my cacao truffle company. I now have a truffle bike, which is really super fun.
Nice.
And I've traveled quite a bit during this time, a couple times to Mexico and to Florida, lots of time in nature. Um, and I've been on a deepening journey of um, I've been on a deepening journey of um, maybe deepening is the wrong word, an expansive journey of expanding all of my offerings. So I've got some education with a Women's Holistic Business Academy, and I'm currently enrolled in the embodied feminine leadership path with the Temple Body Arts Mystery School, which feels really incredible to be a part of. So I know that's kind of a mouthful.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff there. I am happy to go in any direction of those that you want. One of the things that intrigued me about what you said was just about the rebranding, because one of the things that I find on this path is that um, it feels like what I'm doing is something that exists in almost like a cloud-like space. Like if you can imagine like these like spectrum rainbow colored clouds, and it's like I'm kind of in this like green zone of it, but it's not exactly green because there's like some cloudiness to it, and then like that's the channel that I have that comes out into life. And so it's difficult to define exactly what I do sometimes to individuals, but like it's also a necessary part because of course they want to have an understanding of what I'm doing if they're going to check out what I'm doing. And so I know that I myself oftentimes have a struggle with that process.
Yeah, we're even us teachers, we're constantly evolving. And as we shift from this old way of being into a new way of being, we do get into that kind of gray area for a little while. And I still feel like I am still in the process of rebirth. It's like I'm in the canal and I'm almost out of the portal, but it's still in process. So, most of my career I've really focused a lot on health and wellness, but I see myself more now as a spiritual mentor, a transformational guide, and an embodiment alchemist. So, um, yeah, just shifting into a slightly different kind of leadership.
Hmm.
It's definitely been maybe a better way for me to describe what I've been going through, and expanding the toolbox or the medicine basket of what it is that I can offer to the world.
Yeah. Let's explore that a little bit. So, like mentor and guide, I think there are some people that are listening. Some may hear that and be really intrigued and excited and like, okay, so what's underneath that? And then there may be some individuals where it gives them like guru vibes and they're like maybe a little bit feel, I'm not sure that's maybe starts to step into some territory for me that sounds maybe a little culty or like a little bit kind of um, like, do I have to hand my brain over to you, like sort of thing. So, yeah, let's talk a little bit about what that means, about what that is for you being a spiritual guide or mentor.
Yes, more than happy to. So I'm really passionate about inspiring people with possibility and through practice, and also helping people remember their own innate inner wisdom and just guiding them back to that truth, actually, because I believe that the greatest teacher is the teacher that lives within all of us. So, using many different life enhancing tools and practices, rituals to guide people back to themselves again and again and again so that they can remember or awaken to the truth of their soul. I Another way for me to explain it is that I empower and guide people to develop self mastery so they can fully embody their soul's essence and they can live their purpose. Yeah.
Yeah. I like the the guiding back to the soul part because like one of the I noticed that like one of the almost cliches in like the yoga culture becomes things like learn to trust yourself, find like your inner guru or your inner wisdom or whatever. And I find that there's sometimes a lack of differentiation of what that means versus like coming more from ego and more from like your sense of wanting to or having to be unique or um, these other parts. And like kind of like the classic case I give, it's a really simple thing, but I think a lot of yoga teachers have experienced this where uh, you might ask someone to do, honor their body and do what they need before coming into shavasana for the class. And then there's that one person in the over on the side that's like doing a bunch of crunches or push-ups or something right beforehand, and then and it's kind of like maybe that is what you need for your soul, but I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure at this moment what that's what it is exactly. Um, so yeah, I appreciate you like talking about that. This comes from a deeper place uh, than kind of what's immediately at the top of mind or the way that we react day to day in when we're just kind of in a reactive let's just do what we got to do state getting through our day. And whether you want to call that soul or deeper self or the subconscious, like whatever people want to call that, it is from a deeper place.
Yeah, you hit it right there. It's not coming from the ego. It's coming more from the wisdom of our heart, we could also say. In fact, I feel that the soul resides in the heart space. So I feel that heart and soul are very intermingled with one another. And so, yeah, it's not coming from the surface thinking mind. It's a deeper awareness of self. Yeah. And I think a lot of people, I think the pandemic actually, I think there was a lot of awakening happening on the planet before the pandemic, but the pandemic kind of set it into full speed ahead overdrive. And so I think more and more people are waking up to the dream that they've been living and realizing that there's actually something more living inside of them. And yeah, I really want to support people on that journey of awakening and help them remember why it is that their soul chose to be born and be present on planet Earth at this time. Because guess what? The world needs all of us to step into um, our true soul purpose. And for some people, that's being a mother. And for some people, that's being an accountant. It doesn't have to be necessarily a spiritual purpose,
Hmm.
and our purpose changes throughout the passage of time as we evolve and grow too. So,
Yeah, there's definitely I noticed something about being around someone who is in that space. Like you just could go see somebody who's an accountant, and if they're in that space, it's like, damn, there's something about that accountant person. It's I'm just kind of overwhelmed with just like how yeah, there's a humility I notice comes up in me where it's like,
mm, yeah. Yeah, I think it's an energetic thing that we feel when someone is expressing and living from their soul and their heart. Yeah, we recognize it. It stirs us inside.
mm. You have a number of methods that you use to help people connect to this. I'd like to talk a little bit about your method of just like your yoga class because you teach prana vinyasa flow, and it may be good to get into talking about, well, what is prana? How does this help facilitate this process you're talking about of coming more from the soul or the heart, and how does all that work, or what's it like?
Yeah, so prana, I think a lot of us have the understanding that it is life force energy, and that's true. I actually like to think of it as the breath of life because it's also that. And there's different ways that energy moves, and they're very connected to the elements. And so within the practice of prana vinyasa yoga, which was cultivated and created by Shiva Ray and is a more evolutionary style of yoga, but it's very deeply rooted in tradition in the Krishnamacharya lineage and Tantra and Bhakti Yoga and Ayurveda. And so within this practice of prana vinyasa, um, breath is the guiding force, and um, we are awakening all the different ways that energy flows within the asanas through the three-part vinyasa technique, which I don't want to get too technical with all of you. Um, we're doing movements within asanas instead of just holding poses statically. You might come into a lunge and then there might be some other kind of movement that's guided by the breath, that's initiated by the breath, like a pulsation. The arms or legs or torso might move. And sometimes we're actually flowing between one asana and another asana that are in a continuous flow, guided by the breath. Those two asanas are related, and those are the different ways within this system of prana vinyasa yoga that we actually awaken the vayus, the 5 different ways that energy flows and moves. So that's a very big piece of the prana vinyasa system. There's also a very specific way of sequencing. It's called wave sequencing, and you don't even necessarily need to know that or even understand how it works. But what I've seen in, at least the past decade of sharing this practice in the world is that it really helps people's bodies open with ease. It helps them really get out of their mind, drop into their body wisdom, and then their body just magically opens effortlessly. And people are able to embody asanas that maybe perhaps they haven't been able to access from other styles of yoga because of the brilliance of the evolutionary unfolding that happens through this way of sequencing.
Hmm.
Yeah. And so I also just want to say that I work a lot with, the elements, the chakras, the seasons, and the lunar cycles, right? It's the macrocosm, the microcosm, and the macrocosm. We're, as humans, we're all one, but as a universe, we're all one. We're also connected to, the earth and nature. Um, and so that's also a very big piece of the prana vinyasa system.
Yeah. It seems to me prana vinyasa is very much kind of the perfect name because you talk about getting into it occurs to me that like on a very gross level, the thing you're talking about like not just holding the pose, but then starting to work with breath and the undulations and other movements in the pose, um, is like one of the more obvious aspects of its uniqueness. And in doing that, the I one of the things I've always liked about flow yoga is helping students begin to connect in their body this connection between movement and breath or vinyasa and get that sense of how that's actually a very can be like a very fine-tuned process. Like on the one hand, you can breathe and move like the classic inhale, arms up, exhale here, and there's a way that helps, but also there's it unfolds itself in terms of the nuance, in terms of its connection into an inner calmness, and eventually perhaps into something that we might call soul and heart. And so it just occurred to me just now, even though I've heard the style's name repeated over and over again, like how
Mhm.
appropriate that is.
Yeah, it is. It encapsulates everything about what the practice is. Another thing I want to share about the practice is that, we use a lot of uh, traditional namaskars, but there's many innovative namaskars. So, um, gosh, I'm trying to think of how many. So in my 200-hour yoga teacher training program, I weave in the prana vinyasa yoga teachings of embodying the flow and mandala vasanas. And within those two foundational modules, I teach people 10 different namaskars. And then when we get into the elemental vinyasa module from the prana vinyasa system, share that more in my 500-hour yoga teacher training program that I co-created and co-teach with Amy Pierce Hayden of Tantra Wellness and Yoga. Um, there's 5 different namaskars. There's one for each element.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then there's also namaskars connected to the chakras, and so there's um, 5 other namaskars that come from that system, from that module in the prana vinyasa system. And there's even goddess namaskars. There's a Durga namaskar, there's a Lakshmi namaskar, and there's a Saraswati namaskar.
Mm-hmm.
So it just gives you so much freedom and creativity to work with. Um, and it also allows you to really tune in to your present energetic needs in the moment, and then to wisely choose what's going to be a tonic for that, what's going to help you balance the energies that are happening within your body. So that's another um, point in helping people learn how to develop self-mastery, to be able to be aware of what their current state is by tuning in and becoming present, and then choosing a practice or a ritual or a lifestyle tool to help find equanimity and balance, or to give you the fire that you need to get through your day, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
So I just love that. I love the creativity of the prana vinyasa system. Um, and I love the variety that is within it as well.
Yeah, that fits.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just to make sure we're not losing folks here, like namaskar is a salutation, so usually a certain combination of relatively simple sequence of movements with it is brought with a certain kind of attitude, hence salutation. And some of these other terms you may be hearing, like chakra and so on, and some of these like goddess names and so on, would refer to like uh, ways of being that weave through us, oftentimes a lot deeper maybe than what we're conscious of in any given moment.
Yeah, and also another way to think about these different goddesses or deities of any kind, whether they're goddesses or more of a masculine energy, is that they're really archetypes of an inner energy that resides inside of us. And so when I say Lakshmi Namaskar, she is the goddess of abundance and beauty and radiance and radiant health. And so when we chant to Lakshmi or we do Lakshmi Namaskar, it's a way for us to awaken and embody that energy of Lakshmi that actually lives inside of us.
Yeah, and I think in my experience too, it's also a way to see it in other people, which is kind of where the fun is because it's like these energies are dancing together and relating, which is like um, just like Yeah, an amazing creative process.
Yeah, and I also just want to highlight it doesn't matter if you're masculine or feminine, if you're male or female, because every one of us has Ida and Pingala, the solar and the lunar, the masculine and the feminine within us. And true balance is actually learning how to find the balance between both of them, no matter what your gender, how you identify is. So
Mhm.
even though Alex identifies as male, the energy of Lakshmi still resides within him. And even though I um, define myself as female, the energy of Shiva or Ganesh, the elephant headed deity, resides within me. And I can awaken that energy within myself if it's the energy that I need to um, carry me forward in my life with address whatever's happening in my life.
Yeah, when it's needed, and also, I mean, and I would imagine this is true for you too. Like in my experience, like just certain ones are just more joyful in given moments, and just bring something that is magical or insightful in any given moment.
Mm-hmm. I need to speak to, it's just kind of flowing through me right now. Another part of helping people to, or supporting people in remembering their divine essence, connecting with their soul, a big part of it actually is clearing away all the toxicity and the trauma that we experience as humans. Because when we're buried in toxicity or we're living in the past because we haven't healed traumas that we've experienced in our lives, we're just kind of buried and we can't see the light that actually resides within us. So I'm very passionate about helping people clear away the layers of toxicity, clear away the layers of trauma. And I do that a lot through not just yoga asana, but that's where the conscious breath practice really comes in, um, as a way to detoxify, but also and to cleanse the subconscious mind. So to detoxify the physical body, to cleanse the subconscious mind, but also to connect us more to our higher selves and our own inner guidance system, um, to illuminate our path through our breath. And then I also share detox in the world, um, where we actually do, usually I offer it as a 3-day juice fast, but we're also breathing every day. We're doing yoga every day. We're cleansing the temple body as a pathway to connect with the divine. In fact, many spiritual traditions all around the world see detox and fasting as a path of connecting with the divine. And so I love to weave together many of the different practices I do within my detox offerings. So daily yoga, daily breath, TRE, and all of, how to detox, why we detox, raw nutrition, things like that.
Mhm.
Because health is wealth. And when we're not healthy, we don't have the energy to be creative. We don't have the energy to um, do more spiritual practice and more soul searching. It's like
Yeah.
we need to get well. We need to get well first.
When I think of what it's like to be in that space of that you're talking about, where you need to clear some toxicity and so on, or trauma from oneself, it's like things seem really rote or mundane, or needing a lot of stimulation, just like to feel like you have some kind of reprieve in life. Like I need a lot of Netflix or this other thing, in order to feel like there's some joy. Like it's challenging to just sense the joy of being, and that's enough. Not that you can't still do some of those other things, um, but just like that treadmill, that cycle. Um, just feeling just piled on, like there's just the world's heavy and hard to work with, which is understandable in the times we're in, but also like there's a way to connect to something that lets a lot of that flow. So
Yeah, and I think we've all been deeply experiencing that, right? These past couple of years, that life is heavy. If you feel that way, type me too in the comments. And by the way, if you have any questions at all, as we're having this dialogue, oh, you can actually, oh, shoot, um, you can also ask questions in the comments. I'm watching my phone, but as I did that, let me turn the volume off. The volume came on my phone, and now it's like maybe you can all hear it. There we go. Now it's off. Was that, could you hear that, Alex?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that.
It's just
And
doubled the
someone,
dose of Aubree.
Aubree squared.
Okay. Well, is there anything else you'd like to talk about in our conversation? I don't think we actually set a time frame here, but
No, we didn't at all. All I would just think I want to say is that, it's been really invigorating. It's only been a week and a half of having some in-person offerings. I ran some outdoor yoga series during, these past couple of years, but to actually be in a studio space and sharing the practices that I love, the practices that have empowered my life, and so many others, it's just very invigorating. And and actually teaching last Friday at Main Street Yoga and being with people, that was my first time really. And it made me realize how much I have grown and changed just by being the presence of people again and sharing. Um, and so that was really exciting for myself to witness my own growth through reconnecting with people. And then it all just was just so warming to my heart to be back in that space with people. So just so grateful to Alex for being bold and, you know, being willing to do the work of opening a studio. Like I've worn that hat many times. I've owned 2 yoga studios in Madison, Wisconsin, and it is a lot of work. And even more so to be um, doing it during this time where we're still kind of in the pandemic and we're all still kind of recovering from the pandemic. Um, and so kudos to you, Alex. Like I really admire and honor you for the path that you've chosen with
yeah,
the new Main Street Yoga Center. It is
yeah,
a big undertaking. So it needs to be acknowledged.
yeah. Thank you, Aubree. Yeah, and also give a shout out to my business partner Matt, who is not around as much as me, but he's been a part of this too. And it's there's definitely a degree of what it's a roll of the dice because it's are we kind of in the pandemic? Are we out? What's going on with that? And but I think bottom line is that we just felt like this is a really needed thing. And to be honest, as I have been teaching and also attended your class on Friday, which was wonderful. Um, I have even more so, I would say, appreciated what it is to have live in person classes again. I've also taught outdoor classes during the pandemic, and there is a beauty and something rich in that, just like being out there with the birds chirping and just like the wind in your face and like the elements and everything. But I think I realize there's even a part of me that has forgotten um, just how like when you contain it all into this room and the room is there for it and everybody is like sort of dispersing their prana inside the space and it's creating like this kind of container that's concentrating it for everybody like just how potent that communal practice is and it's been wonderful doing it again. And I've had people cry on their mats because it's like, wow, like this is what I remember, and this is feels so good. So, not to take anything away from anyone else, still at this in town, but it's been, I think. The space in particular, there's a kind of vibe and group that has been missing something in town for a while, and that kind of vacuum is what compelled me to do this, and it's a roll of the dice a little bit, but we're going to be around, and so uh, let's all come out and do this again.
Yeah, and yeah, calling out to the community to show up and to bring your energy and to help build the energy together, because it really is, it takes a village and it is a community, and having your presence is a really big part of all of it flowing with grace and ease. And yeah, the energy is palpable, Alex, the way that you were describing. You can feel the energy when it's, I never thought of it like having a container, having an enclosed room. Um, but the energy is more palpable actually in that space. I really felt it on Friday. Um, so are we wrapping it up here?
Yeah, we can wrap it up here. Just to let everybody know, Aubree's teaching at the Main Street Yoga Center on Fridays at 5 p.m. and on Mondays at 5:15. That will be her classic Prana Vinyasa flow class. And yeah, if you like to move, if you just like to play with something that's got that kind of like deeper creative sense, I think you're just gonna fall in love with Aubree's class. Like it's an amazing class, and I'm really honored to have your experience and your energy involved at this studio because yeah, I think all of us put together that are teaching there, the more we can mix and bring kind of the deeper genius that's within us, which you certainly do. Um, it's just going to make this a wonderful place to be.
Yeah, it's truly my pleasure and honor and a delight to be teaching there, Alex. So thank you. And then I just wanted to share with everyone, I have a free gift that I want to offer to you. I'll drop it into the comments actually after we close down the Zoom, because I can't access it on my computer right now. And that's where I have the link, but I'll drop a link into the comments. And if you follow that link and then you drop in your name and your email, you will be signing up for my email, but in exchange, you're going to get a PDF printout of the 10 simple keys to boost your vitality and radiance, which, as we were talking about a moment ago, I think more so now than ever before, we all realize how priceless our health is. And the truth is, if we don't take time for our wellness, we'll be forced to tend to our illness. So I hope that it can support you and your life path and your energy and your health. And I look forward to seeing you down the path at some classes over at Main Street Yoga Center. Bless your day, everyone. Thank you so much, Alex.
Yeah, thank you, Aubrey. Look forward to having the wonderful creativity and prana that will be at play.
Okay, namaste, everyone.
Namaste.